In the ancient world, there were rulers who inspired loyalty, rulers who inspired fear, and then there was Cleopatra, a queen whose beauty became legend, whose intelligence shocked empires, and whose name still echoes through history more than 2,000 years later. But behind the glamorous stories of romance and power lies something far darker. Ancient rumors claimed Cleopatra practiced forbidden rituals beneath the streets of Alexandria, that she manipulated kings like puppets, and that anyone who betrayed her disappeared without a trace. Historians still debate who she really was, a brilliant queen trying to save her kingdom, or a dangerous ruler willing to do absolutely anything to survive. And by the end of her life, the most powerful woman in the ancient world would die alone inside a sealed tomb, under mysterious circumstances that still haunt historians to this day.
Cleopatra was born in 69 BC inside the royal palace of Alexandria, Egypt. But despite the riches surrounding her, she entered a world filled with violence, betrayal, and paranoia. Her family, the Ptolemy dynasty, was infamous for murder and corruption. Brothers married sisters to keep power within the bloodline. Family members poisoned each other for the throne. Inside the palace walls, trust did not exist. Survival depended on power, and power usually came through fear. From a very young age, Cleopatra learned how dangerous the world truly was. Unlike many rulers of her time, she was highly educated. She studied politics, philosophy, science, astronomy, and languages. Ancient writers claimed she could speak multiple languages. But intelligence alone would not protect her from what was coming.
When Cleopatra's father died, she was thrust into a deadly struggle for the throne. According to Egyptian tradition, she was forced to marry her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, even though he was still a child. Behind him stood powerful advisors who viewed Cleopatra as a threat. Tension inside the palace grew rapidly. Political enemies gathered in secret. Assassination plots became common whispers in the corridors of Alexandria. Then, suddenly, Cleopatra vanished from the capital. Forced into exile, she fled into the desert with only a small group of loyal followers. Most people believed her reign was over. But Cleopatra was not planning to surrender. She was preparing to risk everything on a decision that would change the course of history forever. At that exact moment, one of the most powerful men in the world arrived in Egypt, Julius Caesar. The legendary Roman general had come to Alexandria during a brutal Roman civil war. Cleopatra understood something nobody else did. If she could gain Caesar's support, she could reclaim her throne. But reaching him was nearly impossible because her enemies controlled the palace. Then came one of the most famous moments in ancient history. Under the cover of darkness, Cleopatra secretly entered Caesar's palace, hidden inside a rolled carpet or linen sack. When the bundle was opened, the young queen emerged before the Roman leader. Historians say Caesar was immediately captivated by her intelligence, confidence, and charisma. But some ancient rumors claimed her influence felt almost supernatural. People described her voice as hypnotic and her presence impossible to ignore. Whether through charm, intelligence, or manipulation, Cleopatra had successfully gained the attention of the most dangerous man in Rome.
Soon, Egypt descended into chaos. War erupted in the streets of Alexandria between Caesar's forces and supporters of Cleopatra's brother. The once beautiful city transformed into a battlefield of fire and death. Ships burned in the harbor while soldiers fought through narrow streets lit only by flames. During the conflict, fires spread through parts of Alexandria, and according to many historical accounts, sections of the legendary Library of Alexandria were destroyed. Thousands of ancient scrolls vanished forever. Knowledge collected over centuries disappeared into smoke and ashes. Some people believe the destruction was accidental. Others whispered darker theories, claiming forbidden texts about rituals and ancient secrets were intentionally erased forever. As Cleopatra regained power, fear and fascination around her continued to grow. After reclaiming the throne, Cleopatra reinvented herself not only as a queen, but as something greater. She associated herself with Isis, the Egyptian goddess of magic, motherhood, and resurrection. Massive ceremonies were held where citizens worshipped her almost like a living deity. Torches illuminated giant temples while priests performed sacred rituals in her honor. Ancient rumors claimed secret ceremonies took place beneath Alexandria, in underground chambers hidden from the public. Stories spread of chanting priests, strange sacrifices, and rituals performed under moonlight. Historians today argue that many of these stories may have been Roman propaganda, designed to make Cleopatra appear frightening and unnatural. But regardless of what was true, her image had already transformed. To many people in Rome, Cleopatra was no longer simply a ruler. She had become a dangerous symbol of power and temptation.
Then, tragedy struck Rome itself. Julius Caesar was assassinated by senators who feared his growing power. With Caesar dead, Cleopatra faced uncertainty once again. But another Roman leader soon entered her life, Mark Antony, a fearless general and one of the strongest men in the Roman Empire. Their relationship became legendary. Together, they created a world of luxury, celebration, and excess unlike anything Rome had ever seen. Lavish feasts lasted for days, gold covered palace halls, music echoed through the night, while political tensions quietly grew in the background. But beneath the romance was a dangerous reality. Their growing alliance threatened Rome itself. A young Roman leader named Octavian watched carefully from afar. He understood that as long as Cleopatra and Antony remained united, they could challenge his rise to absolute power. Octavian began a campaign to destroy Cleopatra's reputation. He portrayed her not as a queen, but as a manipulative seductress corrupting Roman leaders through beauty and dark influence. Roman citizens were told terrifying stories about her, stories claiming she used magic, poison, and forbidden rituals to control powerful men. Whether these accusations were true or not no longer mattered. Rome had already begun to fear her. Eventually, tensions exploded into open war. The fate of Egypt and Rome would be decided in a single devastating conflict known as the Battle of Actium.
In 31 BC, the fleets of Antony and Cleopatra faced Octavian's forces in one of the most important naval battles in history. Hundreds of warships clashed across the sea, while smoke darkened the sky. Thousands of soldiers fought as the future of the ancient world hung in the balance. But then, something unexpected happened. Cleopatra's fleet suddenly retreated from the battle. Antony followed her, abandoning much of his army behind. Their forces collapsed, and Octavian claimed victory. Historians still debate why Cleopatra withdrew that day. Some believe panic overtook her. Others claimed terrifying omens and prophecies convinced her that defeat was inevitable. Ancient superstitions spread rapidly among both armies. Rumors claimed the gods themselves had abandoned Egypt. Defeated and hunted by Rome, Cleopatra and Antony returned to Alexandria, knowing the end was near. One by one, their allies abandoned them. Fear spread through the palace. Then came the final tragedy. Believing Cleopatra had already died, Mark Antony took his own life. Mortally wounded, he was carried to Cleopatra's chambers, where he died in her arms. The queen who once controlled kings and empires was now completely alone. But she refused to allow Rome to parade her through the streets as a prisoner. Cleopatra made one final decision that would immortalize her forever.
In August of 30 BC, Cleopatra locked herself inside her mausoleum with 2 loyal servants. Outside, Roman soldiers waited for orders. Inside the sealed chamber, nobody knows exactly what happened. Ancient historians later claimed a venomous asp snake was smuggled into the tomb, hidden inside a basket of figs. Others believed she used poison prepared long before that night. Some historians even suspect she may have been murdered. But when Roman guards finally entered the chamber, Cleopatra was dead. She lay dressed in royal clothing beside her dying servants, and according to legend, there was a strange, calm expression on her face, as if she believed death itself could not defeat her.